When I thinking about playing as late as possible and as straight, that helped me to leave better.
I always look to try to extract some kind of movement off the pitch in the air.
It's always the mental side of things. You're gonna get tired. You will get tired. There's no doubt about it. Your legs are gonna hurt. But yeah, it's how strong mentally you can be, because you still have a job to do. If it's not the last inning, you still have to go and bat.
Is your mindset to be aggressive in terms of your intent? So in terms of calling, in terms of even when you leave the ball, can you just give us a little insight in terms of your mindset when you actually go out to the crease and how you kind of try and impart pressure back onto the bowlers?
I think what worked for me well, and I learned this. I didn't learn it right away, and I'm still learning now. But to be honest, in terms of thinking about playing each ball late as straight as possible, and I'm not saying that if you get a ball to cut or to pull, you wouldn't. But I found that when I thinking about playing as late as possible and as straight, that helped me to leave better. Because sometimes if you premeditate, a little push through the covers or just in front point, you sometimes will play at a wideish ball. So I think that mindset of thinking as straight and late as possible in the V, that helped me, in my whole setup. But as I said, still learning, stuff, different conditions. Sometimes, you gotta change your stance for a certain bowler. Obviously a left hand bowler you may open up. So there's a lot of things you could think about, but for me generally it's playing as late as possible and as straight, especially early on with that new ball.
Are you one for, like, when you actually go out into the middle, would you look to adapt in terms of changing your guard, or do you kind of have a set routine that you really kind of want to stick to and you trust your own game, or do you adapt in terms of what's coming down at you? So say, for example, if you're on middle, would you look to open up a bit more and go on two or back on off? How do you do things?
Well, for a left hand bowler, my guard will be different to a right. Sometimes if there's a plan to like bowl straight, 'cause obviously pitch may not have any bounce and stuff. That's when sometimes my guard may change to the right hand bowler. But other than that, in terms of the lowness of the pitch, on a different bowlers, to be honest, different bowlers sometimes could get a different guard. So, obviously that's a lot to do with just assessing the opposition. And so it's always good that you could change different stuff in between. And I have done it, before, where in the same game have different, gear for different bowler.
How do you go about things in terms of the fitness side of things? Because obviously you've got the potential, as you've done in the past, to bat through the innings, bat all day. You can be abroad, like in Bangladesh, bat in humid, warm conditions. Is it a lot of endurance training that you do away from the field? What kind of stuff are you doing in the gym to get yourself accustomed to things? Because it must be different to what kind of the fast bowlers are doing as well. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, in endurance, I think it's a mixture. Because I was an athlete, at school. So as I started playing first class and stuff, that running ability obviously always stuck with me. So running long is always good. Like, one thing that helps me a lot is like running on the beach. Obviously Brandon's Beach, which is like closest to my house. Sometimes like I will run on that for like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and the sand sometimes it's quite dead. Like, it's quite deepish. So like sometimes when you do that, along with doing a lot of shuttles, and then you mix it with the gym. Obviously, you're doing strength work. You're working on your core. You're working on your legs. You're working on your shoulders. Um, especially in your downtime. Because sometimes we have a lot of cricket, but I think what helps during the cricket, because out of season you could put in your work. Because you're home, you put in your work, however you plan it per week. But on cricket, how you find is that once you keep topping up, in between games and in the gym, if you don't have the 100% same gym program, I think once you keep topping up, that obviously helps. But in these humid conditions, I think once you hydrate well, because fitness is key. To be honest, because obviously you gotta be fit to concentrate, to feel long and then going back. But then once you come to these places and you have that work in, once you hydrate well, then that hydration will always make it easier.
Obviously, you're one of the best all-rounders in the world. You play across all formats. How do you manage to get your skill levels so high in both batting, bowling, and also you're a gun fielder as well? Fantastic slipper. Can you talk us through your training regimes and any tips again you can give youngsters perhaps watching this and how they would go about their training?
Yeah, again, like I'll narrow it down. Well, I kind of separate it into batting, bowling, and fielding. For me as a batter, I just try to think a lot about movement. I believe in getting into good positions. So for me, I'm a big guy. I'm a big person on start of your batting. Whereas I call it the trigger. And I believe if I start in a good position, I more or less would get myself into a good position to make a good decision. And that's just my mantra, to be fair. So I focus a lot on foot movement, a lot on body position, a lot on head position as well too. And those are just these three simple things. I'm not one of those guys who will say, well, I need to bat an hour to get myself in or bat 15 balls. I don't like that because I think that's more or less limiting myself, I like to look at just getting in a good position to make a good decision. Bowling for me has come a lot more natural than any other facet of the game because I feel as though I could bowl a bad over, or bowl a bad spell and still have time to come back and correct it because that's how bowling goes. But for me, as I said before, skill is my main set. I don't have raw pace. So for me, I just have to rely on skill. So one of the things I always look to do, regardless of what state of the ball what state the ball is in, or what stage of the game I'm at, I always look to try to extract some kind of movement off the pitch in the air, because I feel as though it always keeps a batsman guessing. In limited overs cricket, your skill set and your accuracy just has to be on. And Jimmy Anderson, I remember we were playing against Jimmy at Lords when Jimmy got his 500th Test wicket, and it was one of the most amazing things for me. He was on 499 and I was batting with Devendra Bishu, and I just didn't want to be part of a highlight reel for the rest of my life. So I was saying to Bishu, man, I don't really want to be a part of that. So I was just watching him bowl a spell to Bishu, and he bowled outswinger after outswinger after outswinger. And then just in the back of my mind, I just telling myself, well, when is he going to bring back one? And he just kept it going away all the time. I don't know if it was just he maybe didn't want Bishu as his 500 wicket, he wanted somebody else bigger, I don't know. But it was amazing. So I said to myself, if Jimmy Anderson is like one of the best in the world, and this is his mode of attack, like I've got to try to implement something like this. And then I heard, I watched a lot of Glenn McGrath, and he had a similar thing, just accuracy and consistency. Curtly Ambrose as well too, and I just built from there. So I just feel, limited overs format, you've just got to be really precise with execution in terms of Yorkers, slower balls, and all different types of variation. So those are the things that I would really focus on in limited overs. But when it comes to red ball cricket, it's just about movement. How can I get the ball to move? And that's just how I model my game. And then when it comes to fielding, I think it's a lot about balance. I'm very, very, very big on balance. So I can't take a catch if my head isn't still. That's the way I think. If my head is all over the place and moving, then I can never be still. So one of the main things I focus on is being very, very balanced, at the point of the shot being played, so that I can move laterally, if I can move forward and back, or if I have to dive, even if I have to dive, the only way I can pick up the ball is if I have a really still head as well too. So that's just one of the simplest things that I can really think about while fielding.
Just give a little bit of insight into the world of international cricket from your eyes.
Yeah, well, it's a lot of everything. You do a lot more of everything. You train more, you train harder. The intensity is always there. So when you're doing something, you're not doing it halfway. You're doing it for a purpose, and you're doing it to get better at it. So a lot more drills. The net sessions are a lot more intense. Bowlers are not just bowling the ball. They're working on something as well. So it's going into the session with a purpose. And yeah, anything we did from wicketkeeping to fitness to batting, everything was done at a higher intensity and just to get something out of the training each time.
And as a wicket keeper, does your strength and conditioning have to change? Because obviously you're squatting a lot more up and down as opposed to your fast bowler running in. Can you talk us through your strength and conditioning?
Oh yeah, well, I've done a lot of work even before this this tour with Ronald Rogers, who's our strength and conditioning coach here. So it's a lot more legs, back, and abs. So, but I obviously have to be fully strong. But yeah, it's a pretty tough program, but I'm getting through it.
And any tips that you can give for young wicketkeeper batsmen in terms of compartmentalizing both skills? You know, the fatigue element, say if you're out in the field for a long time and going out to bat. Any tips you can give for youngsters?
Okay, just keep your eye on the ball as long as possible. Once you're keeping your eye on the ball, you're gonna catch it. Soft hands. But yeah, you're gonna get tired. Just last week I was playing the A team against New Zealand A. I kept 150 overs. So it's always the mental side of things. You're gonna get tired. You will get tired. There's no doubt about it. Your legs are gonna hurt. But yeah, it's how strong mentally you can be, because you still have a job to do. If it's not the last inning, you still have to go and bat. So yeah, you still have a job to do. It's never over. And the wicketkeeper has the worst job on the field. I will always say that, but I love it. There's nothing more I would do. You just have to enjoy it and embrace the fatigue and use that mental strength to get past it.